All right. Hello, everybody. Today we are going to take a look at some vision-related apps for the iPad and the iPhone. Most of these work together simultaneously on either one of those. We're going to look at a few different tools here. All the ones that we're going to look at are free, and they are fairly limited in what they can do, so this should be actually pretty quick. The first one we're going to look at is actually a tool called VizWiz, and we're going to look at this first because I think we're going to have to come back to it to see the results. But what VizWiz does is if we open up VizWiz, and I'm going to change the orientation of the iPad here, what this allows us to do is take a picture of something, and with that picture, then we can, if we don't know what it is, we can take a picture of it, or we can ask any questions about it. So we could say, we'll take a picture of this MiFi hotspot, and then I'm going to record a question. What company is this MiFi hotspot from? And I'll tap record again. And so now it should have recorded that. Now it gives us the option here to select the sources we want to send this to, whether it's WebWorkers, an IQ engine, which will look at other pictures that online to try and match the two of them up. Email, we can put it out on Facebook or Twitter as well. I'm going to go ahead and just send it to WebWorkers here. So when I send that question and that picture to WebWorkers, it's going to take a second to go there, but there's going to be some folks that are going to take a look at that, and they're going to be able to answer the question that I asked. Now, let me see if I'm going to get out of that real quick, and I'm going to go back into it so I can show you just an example. Nope, it's still sending to those folks. You can ask them just about any question with anything that you send, any picture that you send them. You can ask them what color something is. You could ask them about writing on something. You could ask them about what the thing is in general. I had asked earlier today, I had sent a picture of an empty Gatorade bottle that was sitting on my desk, and I asked what type of drink that was, and I asked if there was any left in the bottle. And if you look here, we can look at history, and here's my answer to that. It was a bottle of Gatorade, and no, there was nothing left in the bottle. So that is the kind of thing that you're going to get when you ask these questions. You can also set this. I'm going to go into settings real quickly here, so we'll spin that back sideways to get you a better view. I'm going to go back to settings, and I want to show you that you can set within the notifications tab, and then if you look for VizWiz, you can set this to alert you. You see on the far end here I have selected alerts. You can set that to alert you like a text message when the web worker has finished doing what they're trying to do there and they respond with their answer. So we're going to give them a few minutes to try and respond to us. We'll come back and look at VizWiz to see if we get an answer in a few minutes here. It can take a little bit of time sometimes. Oh, and there it is. It says, I think it's Wi-Fi. It just popped up for me. So it didn't quite answer the question I was looking for, but it did tell me what that was. It told me it was a Wi-Fi hotspot there. So I could ask them again. Maybe they couldn't tell that it was Verizon on there, or maybe they weren't quite clear the question I was asking. But you can see that's how quickly they can come back with an answer and give you an answer. So that's nice for people that don't know what they're dealing with or need a quick question answered based on just about anything they happen to be working with. So if we go back into the sensory option here, there's two more that we have here that are very similar, over 40 and I can see free. What these are is they will, oh there we go, somebody else saw it and said it is a Verizon Jetpack Wi-Fi. So they were able to tell me it was a Verizon Jetpack. So that can be helpful. Again, what we looked at, what we saw in our picture, we couldn't tell. So if we had a, I'll pull up a picture of this again, just so that we can see what it looks like, so that so you've got an idea of what we were dealing with here. If we had a visual impairment and we couldn't read that, there it is, that says Verizon on there, we could send a picture, ask what that is, and they were able to respond. It was a Verizon MiFi hotspot. So I opened up here, you'll see another app. This is the Over 40 app. This is, it's taking a second to catch up to what we're doing. But what this over 40 app allows us to do is actually harness the power of the camera of our device to be able to use it as a magnifier. So what you'll see here is you've got a little slider bar on the side of the screen. You've got a number option here. You've got a flashlight. This flashlight piece will not work on the iPad because it doesn't have the flash that an iPhone has, but we can use it to brighten up the background on an iPhone. So what we would do is if we had trouble seeing some text or some writing somewhere, we could take this app, we'd take the slider bar and slide it to a level that that we need it to be at to be able to see a little bit better. We're going to get a pretty clear picture of what that is. So that's at 3.7 times magnification. If we take it all the way up, it goes all the way to 10 times magnification for us. And if it's hard to keep it steady and view what you're looking at here, we can get to the level that we want, and you see that pause button. If you tap the pause button, it'll take a picture of that. You can save it to photos, or you can stop and just kind of look at it at that level. When you're done, you hit done, and it goes back to whatever you were working with before. There's other options on this screen. Disabling ads, we'd have to purchase the app to be able to do that, or within settings up here, there's the option to enable finger visibility. A lot of these things also require you to have the purchased version. So for free, we can just use this zoom in, zoom out, pause kind of thing. You can see we can also do the pinch controls. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm not actually sliding the bar. I'm pinching like I would to zoom in or out on a website. So that's a nice example of a free tool that you can use to zero in, zoom in on different things to be able to see it a little bit better. And I can see free and Maglite work very much the same way. Another free tool here is a tool called Color ID. So what Color ID does is we're not seeing a very good example of that right now. Let me try this again. Let me close it and open Color ID. Okay. So what Color ID does is, as you can hear, I'm going to pause that real quick. What Color ID does is it tells us what the color of something we happen to be looking at is. So if we struggle with picking out the right color clothes, we want to know what color something is that we're dealing with, we would take our device and point it at it, and I'm going to hit play here, and we'll take a look at that iPad cover over there.
Botticelli.
So that's telling me it's Botticelli. That's a pretty exotic sounding color. Let's see if we can get a color for that bag behind it.
Mine shaft.
Mine shaft, or how about this bag here?
Americano.
Okay, so those are pretty exotic colors. If you see up at the top here, there's these two boxes. If we press that, we can flip between simple colors or exotic colors. So now if we look at maybe the paper here,
a very pale blue.
well, it's actually white. Let's see if we can get it closer. Maybe.
Light bluish gray.
But we can do this where we look at anything we can point at. It'll give us the color of that. If you see the camera button down at the bottom here with the flip camera, we could flip this, and I could use this to find out what color my shirt was.
Purplish red.
So purplish red is what it's telling me here. Strong red. So you can use that. You can use that to kind of figure out the color of whatever you happen to be looking at, or the clothes you're trying to wear that day. You can use this to tell you the color. And again, it's got options for two different types of responses. Just your simple color or your exotic colors. The simple color is probably going to give you the most accurate thing. The exotic color gave me a bunch of colors that I didn't really know what they were to begin with. So that's a very simple app to use again. The downside of this one, if you look down here at the bottom, you do have some ads on this. That's something you're going to run into with several of these free apps. So that is Color ID. We're going to take a look at one more here, and it's called iNote. So one of the issues that folks with visual impairments have with American money is that all American money is the same. Here, we'll tap on here, and you can see there's two different American bills. So the downside of this for folks with visual impairments, all American money is the same size and the same color, so it can be hard to distinguish between them. What iNote does is we can use one bill at a time. We can put it under our camera and snap a picture by tapping on our screen.
$1.
And it's going to read back the denomination of whatever we have in there. So it told us $1 front. If I flip that dollar over, and you'll see we'll fold it in half and flip it over.
$1.
And it's still able to figure out what that is, tell us it's the back of the dollar bill as well. We'll try it again with another bill here. We'll do the $20 bill instead.
$20.
And it's able to tell us what we're dealing with there. So this, again, this is an iPhone app. This is free, but it can be used on the iPad as well, and it's a nice tool for helping somebody with a visual impairment be able to figure out the value of the money that they're dealing with if they struggle with seeing it. So again, today we looked at several different visual apps for people with visual impairments that were all pretty simple. VizWiz allows us to take pictures of anything and ask a question about it that we can then have answered. Over 40 is a magnifier. iNote is the bill finder or the bill denomination speaker, and Color ID speaks out loud the color of something that you point at. I will point out one other thing here. If you go into Settings on your iPad, we go into Settings and General and Accessibility. We're going to find up here VoiceOver. VoiceOver is a very important tool for somebody that has a visual impairment. VoiceOver is basically a screen reader for the iPad that provides access for somebody that has a visual impairment. I'm not going to go through that right now because we covered VoiceOver back in October on an app, on a webinar. If you go to our website, education.uiowa.edu/iCater, and then you go to the Webinars tab, you'll be able to find the VoiceOver webinar there, and you can look into that a little bit more in depth. But that's just an example of some of the visual apps that you can use to help make your iPad or your iPhone a tool that can really benefit folks with visual impairments. Again, if you have any questions, as always, please feel free to email me at james-stachowiak@uiowa.edu. Thank you.